Good morning, guys. Today I just wanted to make a quick video talking a little bit more about why I blacked out. I made a video about this topic, say 2 or 3 months ago, maybe a little longer. And I did get quite into the actual physicality of the matter, the bad part of my tattoo that I wanted to cover on my right arm, and how I enjoyed that and added more to my left arm and so on to my neck and different places. But I didn't get into so much about the psychological part of why the image might have started looking better to me over the years than it did when I was young. Something I lightly touched on and mentioned in the first Why I Blacked Out video was that when I was younger, I thought blackout was a bit of a waste of space. It's a bit of a funny thing to say when I'm sitting here with so much blackout tattoo now, but I did. I felt like there was so much room for more. Why did they do so little? Why would they not have a cool superhero or like a tiger or any of that kind of stuff? There's all kinds of crazy things you could put there. Why just black? So that's kind of what I would have thought when I was a bit of a youngster. And I think part of why I ended up changing my mind about that might have less to do with my need of blacking out my right arm and more to do with some of the things that happened in my own life that kind of changed my mind about what was valuable versus what wasn't valuable, really, at the end of the day. I think the more life kind of took from me, the more I lost people and things that I loved. I think sometimes I started to value items and icons and different things like that quite a bit less. I started to detach from not necessarily enjoying like products so much. A lot of the things that I used to enjoy when I was a kid didn't seem to really matter to me as much as an adult. But by the time I had got to that point, I already had several commitments to myself that I would get these tattoos. So what I mean to say by that is, like, when I was young, I've spoken about this a few times, I was in relationships with different women that didn't work, and I was the breadwinner in those relationships, and I didn't have the money to get the things that I wanted to tattooed. So when I was older, and I did have that financial freedom, a lot of the tattoos that I started getting done were things that I wanted to get done for a long time while I was young, but just couldn't. So then naturally, when I was a little bit older, I started getting those images that I wanted when I was younger tattooed on me. I think even as I was getting them done, I didn't really like them as much as I would have when I was in the early 20s or late teens kind of thing. But it just felt almost like you have to get those done in a way because that's what you always wanted. And I think what I was really wanting more was a form of catharsis, in that a lot of people think that a tattoo is like therapy, for example. I think that a lot of my past life experiences that scarred me on the inside more than the outside with my tattoos, the bad tattoos that I ended up getting a lot of the time. I think a lot of the memories that I had and the loss and people coming and going and different things like that. I think a lot of what I was doing later in life when I finally got those tattoos done was a form of catharsis, healing, therapy, like reclaiming. So I don't think a lot of the time when I was getting tattooed, it had anything to do with the images that I was getting. I think it had more to do with the actual process that was going on. And one of the artists that I ended up working with when I started ramping up and getting tattooed lots, I think he recognized that even sooner, well, quite a bit sooner than I did. He started getting me in kind of every few weeks. Now, I should say that that was quite a big deal because the artist that I'm speaking of, Lee, who's done a lot of my work since, did the original blackout tattoos on me. He was booking 3-4 months at that time. He's even farther booked out now. But he started bringing me in, like, say, before the shop opens, after the shop closes, kind of thing. Because I think he kind of got a sense of the sort of journey I was on wasn't necessarily about tattooing. And we had a bond because I think he had a lot of similar life experience. And he could kind of pick up on the vibe that I was giving out unintentionally. I think he knew that a lot of what I was trying to achieve was less about coverage and more about some form of pain therapy, where it's not necessarily about enjoying being in pain or liking being hurt or anything like that, but I think it's something to do with overcoming. It becomes like an addiction of overcoming, but this is a form you can control. I think a lot of what happened in my past conditioned me for being in some form of like struggle, we'll say, in life. And I found it helpful, I think, on a subconscious level to go through tattoo after tattoo after tattoo, almost as a form of overcoming my past, if that makes any sense. And I think that if we're getting into the psychology of why the tattooing hasn't stopped, even when I finished 2, now starting and well into 3rd bodysuit, I think it's because part of me became attached to tattooing as healing, as opposed to I need more images. I think a lot of people get that. I think a lot of people have that sort of addiction to all kinds of things. They have dependences. They're dependent on different things that they don't even realize. For example, like some people get it with sports, or some people have that with collecting cards or playing video games, or it's just a form of, I think, some form of destination addiction that also manifests as a form of progress, where I legitimately feel like if I don't keep getting tattooed, and this isn't what I consciously feel like, I feel like subconsciously there's some narrative running in me that's if I'm not working on something or fixing something or furthering myself in a way that I want to, that I'm standing still, that I may as well be dead, in a way of speaking. I actually do feel like if you're alive and you're not getting farther in the things that you love, then you're basically complacent and you're just waiting to die. So there was a lot of things that happened when I finished my first bodysuit. It was right around the time when I finally married my wife, Sarah. And I spoke about that a little bit on the first Why I Blacked Out video, but to get more into detail of that, that was a long-running narrative of my life too. I was engaged 4 times. It's not something I mention often, but the early part of my life, I consider myself a bit of a serial monogamist, where I was with several women for long periods of time and always just looking for a partner that would last in a way. And I was, I think, trying too hard to make it work with the wrong people that it could never work with. So when I finally found someone who's actually good for me, who's quite a bit different than the people I'd been with in the past, which also played into being able to afford getting tattooed, because I had my own money for once in my life. I think by the time I finally married my wife, there was a bit of a storyline finish. There was a bit of a climax. And even on my wedding night, I actively was thinking that this may be the greatest day of my life, and in some sense, it's all downhill from here. in terms of a narrative structure of what defines a life and what makes a life interesting. If you were running a story of my love life, that was going to be the peak of victory. If you were watching a movie, that would be, 10 minutes to the credits roll and they lived happily ever after. I was also, as I said, just finished my bodysuit and assuming that I'm going to be done getting tattooed. So I think there was a bit of a weird midlife crisis for me where a lot of things were coming to an end, yet I'm only 30 years old. And when I originally started getting tattooed all the time, constantly, when I finally had the money to, I had given myself a rather, I thought, ambitious timeline where I wanted to be covered by the time I was 35. That was my goal. I wanted to be finished getting tattooed by the time I was 35, and I felt like that was even pushing it. I didn't know how fast I was going to get there. I didn't know anything like that. So I thought, man, I'm really putting myself against it. Well, I wasn't. I did it in just a few years. I was, fairly covered, well, moderately covered when I kind of made up my mind about that. But I didn't think that I would get my sleeves done and get my torso done and my legs done and my rear end done and my armpits done, got multiple times, and then cover my right arm. I didn't think I would get all of that done by the time I was 30. I was just go, go, go because I was enjoying what I was doing. There was very rare moments where I didn't enjoy the journey there. And I don't even think I was stopping to smell the roses. Like I was never really appreciating the finished product or the place I was at the time. I wasn't doing that. I think now I actually am doing that, where I'm taking 2 weeks in between getting tattooed now. I've slowed down the pace to where I can actually see what I'm up to and kind of evaluate what I'm doing before I get there. A lot of what I was doing was just constant. I need to get tattooed today. I need to keep going. I felt almost like I was going through withdrawals if I didn't get tattooed for a week. I still have a little bit of that now, but because I'm consciously slowing down, it's kind of starting to ebb off. But there are those days when life almost seems like it has less of a journey or like a path where I'm finished now. I've conquered all of the plateaus. Like all the times I've broken through plateaus or gone farther, I'm kind of at the point now where there aren't really many of those left. And it's sort of like, say you discovered all of Earth. I've discovered all of my body to some extent. And there's very little new ground to break. And I think that when I became finished, or when I was finished my first suit, and I married my partner, Sarah, I think a lot of things were feeling that way for me, where it was like, what is there left to do? I own a house. I'm raising my son. He's doing great. My love life is great. My work life is great. I'm finished my tattoos. I guess I just be now. It was a weird thing. I don't think I should get that feeling as young as I did, but the only way I can describe it is like a midlife crisis. So you could say that because I've spoken about how my left arm really didn't need to be blacked out. I just wanted to keep going. I wanted to start something new because life doesn't end at 30. Life doesn't end at 60. Life doesn't end at 70. Why should my passions and my interests and the things that have made me happy, why should those things have to end? When was the last time you told a guy who likes to play video games, or a person who likes to play sports, or collect cards, or read books, aren't you done now? Like, what are you doing? Why are you still doing that? You finished that book. You shouldn't be reading anymore. So that's kind of why I think I continue. I think that's why I blacked out, was as a way to continue doing what I loved and continue doing what heals me and what makes me enjoy. Um, I think that a lot of times in life, if we don't have those sorts of storylines running, it can feel almost pointless to bother. You can get into nihilism where it's, why am I going to work all the time? What am I building? What is any of this for if there's nothing for me? And I feel like people scratch that itch or plug that hole with different things. And for me, that's always been body modification, whether it's tattoos or piercings. Someone recently asked me if I've ever done any suspension, and I haven't, but I would love to. I would do suspension tomorrow if I had the chance, because that form, that overcoming, is something that I'm really interested in and has sustained me, has made life easier to deal with. And I think that, again, the blackout was just a way to prolong that. And the image that I got from it wasn't as valuable as the healing or the continuing of a form of therapy or escapism, as what tattooing got me. It gave me a way to escape or sort of transcend my past. I've spoken about how I feel like blackout can be like a sort of healing journey or a rebirth. And that's exactly what it's been for me. It's been transformative, and more than just physically. Mentally, I feel more certain and stronger within myself after having gone through all of those sessions, and still going through more sessions than I did before. It gives you a lot more confidence in yourself, that you can overcome all of that. And a lot of it was very meditative. I say quite often to people, tattooing isn't just destructive, because people think all it does is close doors for you. But for me, it's opened up a lot of doors. Maybe not financially, but though it has. But mentally, the places I've gone to during some blackout sessions, I was never familiar with before. Some of the pains that I've been in, or the discomforts that I've been in, have demanded me go to darker and deeper places within my mind than is typical of the North American life. We don't experience that form of challenge or discomfort or pain in a typical life. And I don't think you can, unless you voluntarily go through discomfort continually, ever really get that sort of thing anymore these days. I would imagine it's similar to like hardcore weightlifting or something like that, where you get into like a pain cave where it's almost meditative and you learn a lot about who you are and even become a different person through it. I'm so much more patient, measured, calm, and collected than I once was. And I give full credit to this second suit journey for that. I can see eyes down the road. I can see the forest through the trees, or however they say it, so much better than I once could. I never was very patient when I was young. I was always rushing into things. As I said, I was rushing through my tattoo, my first bodysuit. I rushed through a lot of my blackout suit. But as I've sat through a lot of these sessions where you just can't help but slow down and focus, and you carry that with you through life, and I certainly have anyway. It's made hard moments at work and minor inconveniences at home, sudden surprises you weren't expecting, things going wrong. All of that stuff has become easier for me to handle since doing all of the different blackout sessions, since having my armpits blacked out several times, since having my nipples blacked out 6 times, since having my fingers blacked out a total of 5 times. All of these things demand you be in the moment and survive. And when you can look back at all of those different things and say, I made it, it makes life easier in general. And it makes the coming possibilities of things going wrong easier to reckon with. Anyway, this has gone a bit longer than I wanted it to. I hope you found this useful or entertaining or something like that. And those are a few more reasons why I feel I blacked out and why blackout as an aesthetic really does suit my sensibilities for life. So I'll talk to you guys later.